Hello there friends, Steve Turgoose here. I thought I'd make a little video today just covering a few of the unanswered questions and things. You know, sometimes I get a comment and I mean to answer and then I just don't get round to it. You know, sometimes I get asked about other people on YouTube, you know, other like sources of information. For example, you know, with the Bible information and that, there's a lot of other people on the YouTube covering different aspects of the Bible, you know, such as Bill Donahue and the Servant King, and there's a lot of people looking at totally different aspects and stuff. And my own research, I only really started a particular type of research on the Bible about 2 years ago. And I looked at it in a totally different way. So really, when someone asks me, do I follow their work, then not really, no. No, I don't think I've seen much of Bill Donahue's work. Generally, what I find that most information sources seem to have in common is a suspicious view, a little bit as well. So like with the Servant King, the idea that the whole system's a swindle and you've kind of got to like get rid of your name or your identification or whatever. I don't know if that's the basis of what he's saying, but that's what it kind of leads a lot of us to. And I disagree with a lot of the conclusions they make. So therefore, I don't recommend watching any other. For example, about the Bible, I don't recommend researching anything really. You know, listen to everybody, listen to me. You know, I'm saying something that's different to everybody else that I know on the internet. So you know, you can't really find what I'm saying anywhere else. You know, the only recommendation I could give to Bible research is Christina Hayes, who is actually literally reading it. You know, reading it literally. A lot of people say you don't read it literally, and I say, well, you read all books literally. You should never take anything as read anyway, whether it's the Bible or Lord of the Rings or, you know, Mills and Boon. You shouldn't take anything like as read, but you should literally read it. You know, and to a certain degree, we are all semi-illiterate. You know, we've all lost the art of language, you know, in common everyday speech and through television and everything. And that's one of the biggest problems, I think, and it seems to be outlined in society, is the misuse of language is led to misunderstandings and the wrong people in power. And so when we like look at the literary world, we start to read books like the Bible in a different way. You know, we should read them like we would read Lord of the Rings or, you know, any other book really, because otherwise we're trying to find something in it for, as a kind of a thing. You know, we're trying to find history in it. We're trying to prove that those characters existed 2,000 years ago, when that's not the point at all. You know, the Bible the word Bible means books, and I often repeat myself because it just doesn't come across. You know, the word Bible, it doesn't mean book. You know, it isn't the name of a book. It's like, it just means literally in Greek books. It's a library of lots of books written over thousands of years or 1,000 years by totally different authors in totally different situations in different cultures. From, you know, so the book itself is, you know, it's compiled out of a lot of different works, you know, for a reason, and that's what I talk about, the reason. But like I say, you know, all of my work is based on around seeing an optimistic view and not looking for evil in everything. Do you know what I mean? And I know we see the evil, and I made a little picture of this. You know, the idea, you put a puzzle together and you see on the puzzle, you keep finding horrible puzzle pieces, and most people don't want to look at the pieces because there's horror scene, you know, there's blood and things on each. So you put the puzzle pieces together and you see demons and hell scenes and hellfire and smoke and torture. But if you was to make that on a table, and then like a glass table, and then look underneath the puzzle, there's words on the back that kind of say something. You know, it's like it's not that everything we see that seems evil is evil. You know, and that's the big trick in a way, that we shouldn't presume evil, and the world makes us presume evil. Those two things kind of rub together. Yeah, the law research as well. I've studied a lot of different free man on the land videos, sovereignty videos, all these different kind of videos covering how we can be free in law. And I myself, just like a lot of other people, are going or been on this journey down this path of studying the law, studying about the legal fiction, the person, corporations, statutes, acts, jurisdictions, courtrooms, all of these aspects, different levels of authority, different types of court, different types of law. And I studied and studied, and looked at a lot of the law gurus. You've got people like Carl Lentz, who I've seen on, UK column and stuff, saying go into court and say, saying that if you use the word property, then the court will listen to you. Sort of like if you want your child back, you can say, give me my property back, And these have raised massive debates in the scene. You cannot call a child property, I don't think, But I mean, it doesn't really matter that the actual key is in the word mine, not in the word property. A child is mine because we belong together. It would be a disownership to not have the child. So it goes into a lot more thinking, and I think in a way it's good to listen to the gurus, but to find out where they're wrong, and then you'll realise where they're right and where you've misunderstood it maybe. But a lot of what they're saying is very kind of frivolous, bold statements, like go into court and say this, and it's like we're the guinea pigs of this information. So it does make me angry, and I say, well, don't listen to anybody but me. But I'm coming up with a loving aspect to it, where, like I said before, a lot of the law gurus are going into this like a bull in a china shop, and I can understand it. I began the same, but I just suddenly realised, hang on a sec, you can't see the world sinister. You have to see the world through the eyes of a judge who hasn't got any personal connections to you, or the defendant or prosecution or whatever. It's just a system. It's their job. They do it for years. And so we have to look at things from different people's aspects, from the Queen's perspective, from the Pope's perspective. I know we may not get on with these characters and figures, but if we just looked inside of their roles and see them as roles, because even being a man is a role, or being a woman is a role, being a child is a role, So, and we're born into these roles, so we have to accept them. We don't have to agree with them, but we can accept them and then start to look at them. And this is the point about claiming sovereignty. There's nobody you can claim sovereignty off but yourself. There is a law. There is a divine law out there that has to be respected by everybody in the world, and everybody is divine. But the thing is that law isn't written down somewhere. There's no one you can claim it off. It is a law of self-evidentiality. So if you can't realise why something's self-evidential, then keep searching, because you will see after a while. Some none of them come to mind, and I don't like too many examples, because, we shouldn't base our thing off examples. The examples are there to make things a bit more clearer, to put them into perspective. Like one example, for example, is, can you prove that you are alive? And not just, say, a machine or something, Things like that. I mean, it's probably a rubbish example. But like, who owns you is another example. So like I say, I'll talk in more in depth about a lot of the different aspects that, like, the law gurus or whatever, like Dean Clifford was another one. I found it really inspiring to watch the guy talk about trust law, but then I realised it's, you can see something going wrong, and I went back to the idea of trust law is like a lion law. If you're in the jungle and if you've got a cat or an animal or whatever, a pet, that you can create a communication with that pet. Now, I mean, dogs are a little bit different because they're loyal to the master, but with cats and lions, they don't follow your law. You can't tame a tiger. But there's a relationship between you and the tiger, between you and the lion, where the lion catches the mice and looks over, keeps the law almost. So, I think you can learn a hell of a lot more from your own cat about trust law and what it means as an authority than you can off any human being or law guru. So, You know, and trust law is probably one of the highest, and that connection with divine law. And that's why we see the lion symbolised on a lot of like heraldry, is because it symbolises this divine law aspect that can't be tamed. But you often see as well the lions got lazy, you know, and now the bull or the unicorn or the, you know, all of these horned creatures like Capricorn, you know, like going head first into everything. You know, that's what the Baphomet symbolises. That's what Jacob's dressed as. You know, he was dressed in a hide to trick his father out of the land Israel. You know, and so Jacob is dressed in, you know, with horns and hairy goat legs and stuff. But it's hidden. It's hiding. It's a hide. A hide. That's why the English word for hide is hide. You know, because it's like a wolf in sheep's clothing or whatever. It's actually a man in wolf's clothing in sheep's clothing, more like. The layers, you know, the lion and the unicorn. The unicorn is an antelope in disguise, you know, and the antelope is actually a billy goat in disguise, and the billy goat is actually just represents Jacob, you know. It's not just one thing, you know, like there's a lot of different cultures and a lot of different, like, divine legends or myths or characters created to show, you know, to show something, to paint pictures, you know. All the characters in the Bible you can see in other cultures in different stories, and they match up, and the reason is because they've been based off particular logics and laws and perfection. Otherwise it would be hardly divine, would it, if you just like roll the dice and then have like 10 apostles instead of 12, you know, because 12 is a very musical number. You get harmony, you know. To use any other number would be kind of silly, because you'd have to, where else would you incorporate music? You know, everything needs to be incorporated in divine law, because as we know, everything goes back to the golden ratio and the creation of the universe and everything. It's created out of a golden rule, you know, so why wouldn't that be so in a book, even if man writes it and conceives it? The idea is we're wise enough and clever enough to not only make a high level of mathematical precision to such a book, but also hide it behind kind of like pious little stories. But going beyond that, you know, a lot of like religions have actually taken their authority out of the Bible. You know, usually taken one inspiration from the Bible and created a religion out of that. So Bibles are not actually connected to religions, you know. And so religions have their own doctrines that are not connected with the Bible directly. You know, a lot of churches have their own songs and prayer books that people don't really actually have the Bible in front of them all the time. And so the religions are like spin-offs of the Bible. That's why they all use the same Bible. And a lot of these religions have created their own doctrines that get in the way, you know, about like sexual things and about like homosexuality, and put all totally terrible spins on it, which is why the Bible's such a hated book by many, because the religions have given it a bad name, you know. And in religions there's a lot of things like, for example, like old paintings and miniatures that were like found with old scriptures, you know. It was against religious law to depict humans and gods in miniatures and pictures and paintings and things. It was, you'd have to depict people with wings or with different like animal heads and stuff. And so often they'd take pictures with, like, you know, if there was a person who was loyal and very fast at running, then they'd probably have some, you know, a horse with like really strong leopard's legs or something and wings, you know, and that would represent a person who had those traits, you know. I mean, it's kind of supposed that because we're supernatural, we come from the natural, and so we bring with it these animalistic things, you know. And let's face it, we've all got the animal in us, you know. Suddenly we lose our balance, and suddenly we got this horn, you know, arr, arr. You know, that's why we're suddenly bulls in a china shop, baphomets, you know. And it's like the inner nature of the beast, of man, you know. And we both got that. It's almost like two different selves, you know. So yeah. Am I alone? It feels weird talking out here. But then again, I'm talking to millions. What have I got written down? Yeah, my fears. I get really scared making these videos of upsetting people for any one reason, you know. I've got a thick skin myself, so people can't upset me that easy. People can confuse me, and upset me because I don't want to upset them. People like walking into my traps. And sometimes I feel like I'm going to come across condescending because I know something you don't, which is obvious, otherwise I won't be here telling you it. But all the same, I just, probably from school, I don't like the idea that somebody thinks they're better than me because they know something I don't, and I don't put that across at all. I am proud, and I may be glowing with a little bit of enthusiasm because I'm excited at my own information, but it's not as if I create some sort of high ground with it. I'm rubbish at other things, So I'm only enthusiastic on this video about the things that, blah, blah, blah. But I care too much. I could do with going to that ceremony of the cremation of care, at Bohemian Grove. That might do me some good. Care, I think we all care too much, some of us. And but it's better than not caring enough, eh? But it is important to protect yourselves from the madness. And this was something I've been thinking about. And you notice I put up some music over Christmas, over December and that, everyone's got a different name for that. We are talking worldwide as well, so I try and include different cultures. It's difficult because, I only know it from my culture. I do try and take into consideration other scriptures and other books, but because I don't have the legal side, the bureaucracy to like match it up with the divine scriptures, then there's not a lot I can do. I haven't got an Israeli passport or something to look at it, or an Arabic passport or any, I can't relate to that world. I can't even speak the language, so words mean something different in different languages. Blah 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 blah. I'm blabbing on, Anna. Anyway, yeah, so there's a few people out there that I meant to send or write something to for a long time, and I sort of kind of lost contact. I don't even know if they're online or not, but if you're there and if you're watching, then, there's enough time. It's eternal. And you can, where I am, and I'll try and get in contact with everybody over time. I wanted to do some shout outs, but the list is so long I'll do it on another video. But there's some great people out there putting up hangouts and hosting hangouts for others to come in and watching good debates, and it is progressing. Some of the other things I said a few videos or a few weeks ago that I would talk about certain things in depth, and I haven't started yet really. I did put a picture up of the Pigpen code, the Freemasonic code or whatever, which, I've known that since I was a kid, that code, and I thought it's so easy that you don't, nobody had learned that code. And so I forgot about it. But then, sort of a few months ago, I looked at the code again, and I thought, wow, yeah, it's got north, east, south, west, exactly in those same positions. There must be some intent of the people who built, or, the people who were modifying the language, And it all kind of fits in. It might seem irrelevant sometimes. You might think, well, there's a lot of suffering and struggling going on in the world. Why are we drawing little Pigpen codes and looking at diagrams and stuff? And I'll get to that again on another video. But basically, the answers and solutions to empowering yourself are a little bit more long term in some ways than just sort of like finding an answer or going out on a protest. If you can make yourself strong enough to understand certain little bits that we're little traps and tricks that we're falling into, then you become powerful enough to do the rest, And if I was to say, if you could do a 1 or 2 year course with me intensively on how to reclaim your own sovereignty, would it be worth taking the 2 years, or should we just keep trying to bang our head against the wall? Banging our head against the wall's good because then all of the people who are asleep can hear that banging. But within ourselves, there's always the sinister and the dexter, the right hand and the left hand. And so within yourself, you have to keep a certain kind of calm. And on the outside, you kind of have to live out a little bit of that madness to bring it to light. But you can't confuse the two. You can't confuse what you do in the outside with what you feel in the inside. Sometimes you just have to realise there's a difference there. Old models versus new, I've got a lot of ideas. I mentioned new ideas for the music industry. I really began to loathe the music industry And I just stepped aside from it. I didn't want a record deal. I created my own labels with other people and stuff. Saw even problems then, again, with the law. Everybody seems to bang their head against the wall when it comes to law in every area of life. Same with me, and I just got fed up with it all. I've got fed up with the music industry, got fed up with people just looking for prestige and acclaim and you know, what. And I want to change the world. You know, if I make a piece of music and I put it onto a disc and I copy it 1,000 times, it doesn't get any better for me. It still sounds the same. It's not 1,000 times louder, you know. So music is my own joy, and I can go out and play live and stuff. But I think it's really time to look into what we can do together to change this planet, you know, not just try and sell each other our wares. It's good to, you know, the thing is though, I've had to move back into my art, my music and the things that bring me alive, because that's where I got my energy in the first place to do all this. You know, the path I took was a musical path, or an artistic path, you know. And it doesn't matter whether you're an artist or whether you do something else. Your path is still your art. It's still your art of living, you know. And if that's where I get my power from. So if, for example, putting up a bit of music or playing a little bit of music brings me my power back, then I think to myself, I'll put a little bit of it online, and then you know that it's not. I'm not just sitting in a room getting stressed. I'm playing music. I'm being artistic. I'm trying to put the message into the art as well, and we can all do this. We can all live out the art, and so we shouldn't have great expectations of ourselves all the time to be some kind of like world shakers and movers. You know, sometimes we can just come back to ourselves and do what we really love, and we might find that has 100 or 1,000 times more effect somehow, somewhere. And that's where I get my energy from. So new models include, for example, with the music industry, I'm really interested in like cutting out the middleman, cutting out all of these executive like label managers and stuff, and just getting it straight to the audience. So nowadays you can give the music straight from the band to the audience live, or over the internet, and the audience can pay directly, and it can set up a system where the audience can pay for that what they want, whether it's a musical or a live tour or a better show or a music film or new songs or a new album, new musicians. You know, this can be decided by the audience a lot of the time, you know, rather than by the executives of a record label who don't really care about music that much. They're in it for the profit. I think this whole thing, it needs a new mentality, a new consciousness on the side of the musician and the audience, that music is an experience and not a commodity, you know. Old models, you know, there's a lot of old models like the Bible, like the legislation, like governments and nations and peoples and kings. These old systems, we're not just going to, you know, someone like me and, you know, 10 other people, we're not going to construct another system that we can just sort of like convince everybody is better. At least not straight away. It needs to develop out of the old one. I know people will disagree, and it's probably because you just don't understand what I'm saying. I can appreciate that. Thing is, we have this system, and there is a way of cracking it. There is a way of cracking it. I can't tell you it in 2 minutes, obviously. It'll take me 2 years. But you might get it quicker. You might already know it. In fact, you probably do know it. We just don't believe it. And that's the type of hope that I try and bring to this channel. It's not like we need to give in, or we need to like use our last little bit of energy to fight before we go down. We're not going down. We're as strong as hell. The problem is more the madness that's creating and the suffering. You know, there's more like suicidal problems than there is anything else. You know, cannabis and stuff, it's the best thing on the planet for everybody. Not only like psychologically, but health-wise and everything. You know, and because we're in such stress, and we're badly, you know, got bad nutrition and bad health and so much stress, it's actually the biggest weapon against us. You know, nothing from politics hurts us more than our own like stress and nutrition and our own well-being. So that's the place to start when we're talking about sovereignty. I'm not talking about look after yourself and forget others, because others are you. You know, your world is others. So it's almost better to make sure that others are like happy with you first. You know, sometimes it just means doing a few small things for people and they're happy. You know, so it's not about having some kind of attitude about it all. So like I say, new models are definitely needed, and we the people, we as individuals together can change this society to anything we want, but it will work better if it's right, if it's true, and if it's good and loving. So that's, So it's about creating new models that supersede old models, because the old model is there to deal with corruption and evil and people out just for profits and stuff. To set up, these networks, get us together, and to try and find the different type. There's different types of people doing different things, and some of us are kind of like a little bit on the back bench because it's a different kind of game. We feel, but everybody's in it. It doesn't matter what you do. If you do, then that's good, in my opinion. Even if you say something that's wrong, then others will find out and tell you, and then everybody knows. So wrong or right, bad or good, or mistakes or not, it all adds to it. If if you can stand up and do that, then that's always good. Especially to do it in the name of love, even if you get angry out of love and stuff. I mean, obviously, physically don't hurt anybody and don't slag anybody's name off and misuse the names and things like that. But I notice we all know that. I think everybody I see on the internet has got a brilliant. He's quite dignified, even though we swear all the time and laugh and mock celebrities and stuff. I think there's a lot of dignity. I think there's a lot of righteousness already. I think a lot of people who themselves think they're just lost actually got a pretty good moral compass. It's just we find ourselves in a madness, so you're gonna think you're lost anyway. Fake is real. Fake is real. What is fake? It's a real fake. And we have to obviously then try and discern between real and fake. And it's up to you then. It's up to us all as individuals to kind of work out not whether it is, but what we can do about it. Not whether it's real or fake, but if it was real, what would we do about it? But not get upset if it's fake. We shouldn't expect anything anyway. And we need to understand that we can't demand the truth from a society. There is nobody there to enforce that. We have to accept that there's going to be lies. And you have to accept that maybe you have to lie as well. But there's different types of lying. In fact, I'd say it's essential that you have a bit of a think about that and look at the word lie in a dictionary and stuff. Because over the years, there's far too much of this truth and lies thing, and I think in a way it blocks the idea that everybody should be honest and true. It's fantastic, but in a way that would be like robots, probably. There's quite an interesting film called The Invention of Lying. It's quite good, Yeah. So just to kind of accept and tolerate the lies and stuff, and just think to yourself, well, it's an illusion anyway, so I can't expect the truth. We'll just roll with it and love it anyway and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, so that after this, I'll bring this to a close really. I want to get on to Hangouts, and I want to put on my own Hangout. I did do Stevie's Mystery Show for a year or something, my own show. I didn't have other guests on the show because it's always difficult setting up a two-way microphone system. I wanted the sound quality for music and for talking and stuff. But I definitely itching to get onto Hangouts and chat with people and stuff. So I hope to be pursuing that when I've got little things to sort out always, how it is, but maybe I just drop things and just forget and lose a bit of the care and just be a little bit more spontaneous. And anyway, yeah. Thanks a lot to you all for tolerating me, for being there, not just tolerating, for actually coming back with some really good comments and loving quotes and stuff. I don't expect it actually. I expect the worst, and there comes the best, and that's so heartwarming that it gives me hope as well for this world. We are the stronger ones. We are strong. Yeah. And I'll continue my work in depth about law and sovereignty and the Bible and language, things that empower us. I will be obviously pursuing that. If you've got any extra little questions, then let me know. But I'll probably do that inside. I'll try and set up an area where I can use some diagrams and all of that good stuff. But I think in a way, just talking on camera, getting on Hangouts, making it spontaneous, not having nothing pre-text, and that has a much more spirited quality. A few diagrams would make it easy, but I could even draw them on the fly. All right then, I'll leave it there. My whole love goes out to you all, and energy and that, and feel empowered. Feel empowered. There is hope. Don't lose hope. Don't feel lost. Look around and just enjoy the show occasionally if you can. Laugh at it, whatever. Get together with some other people and talk about something else. Something that's still about solutions and freedom and power, but kind of try and push the badness out for a while. But I appreciate those who have got the strength to actually look at the news and look at the evil and bring these things to light. This is the most important thing. We are entering the dark. We have to go into that dark, cold spaces, and we do have to shine the light. So I'll see you there in the dark. You'll notice me with my light. All right, cheerio.